Australia has a housing affordability crisis. If you're a first home buyer, getting your foot into the market is bloody tough. And I work with first home buyers and I've seen the pain they've gone through to try and get their deposit saved. And then when they're trying to get into the market, many places across the country, they're just so difficult to buy because there's so much competition and houses are getting multiple offers. In fact, a client recently in regional Victoria, this house, it was an affordable house, it had 17 offers on it. And we were very lucky to secure that one. But it just goes to show that the situation right now is dire. So if you are looking to get into the property market, or maybe you've got a family or a friend, or maybe you're worried about your kids' future, in today's episode, I'm going to unpack for you, like, what's the data saying? Like, just how difficult is it to get into the market? I'm going to talk to you about, like, what's contributing to the current situation. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel, or is this just craziness going to continue? And then finally, I'm going to give you 7 tips for what I'd recommend you do if you want to start, I guess, doing what you can to get your foot into the market. And some of these might be solutions that can help you get into the market sooner. In case you don't know me already, my name is Steve Williams and welcome to the Property with Steve YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you come back another time. And today's episode, like, guys, I really feel for people who are first home buyers, and I was there many years ago, but today's situation, it's even more and more difficult. And you look at your local suburb, and for people that live in the big capital cities, it's like you look at a house price and we're talking like $1-2 million for a house, which is just absolutely crazy. And the wage growth just hasn't kept up. And then the ability to save a deposit with the increasing costs of living and inflation, it is tough. And I really empathize with people in that situation. And I've seen the heartache that people go through, like when I go to open homes in my job and when I speak with clients that, you know, work with me, it is tough. So let's take a look at what are the numbers actually saying, just how tough is it? And then let's go on and talk about, like, is there light at the end of the tunnel? What options do you have to start getting into the market? Guys, I want to show you this report. This is from ANZ, and this is the Housing Affordability Report. It's the most recent one I could get. And the dwelling value to income ratio, that means like the cost of a house compared to your income. It's now sitting at 8. So 8 times the average income in order to purchase a home. And this is like crazy ahead of the long-term average, 20-year average, which is 6.7, like literally like 1.3 times higher a salary than what the average is. And you can see the average here, it's sort of, you know, consistently usually around 6 to 7, but it's definitely jumped up with the price hikes we've had over this COVID period. Now, if we look at the years to save a deposit, that's a measure of like how long it's actually going to take to put money aside and buy a deposit. It's at 10.6 years to save a 20% deposit on a home. And that is also well above the long-term average at 9 years to save for a home. But then when you actually get a mortgage, just how affordable is it? Like if we look at this here, it's going to take up 50% of your income to service the mortgage, which was crazy ahead of the 36.6 long-term 20-year average. If you are a renter, which I guess if you're not a homeowner yet, then you're probably renting. So the ability to save money when you're paying for rent is also quite difficult. If you look at this here, 33% of income is going towards rent, which is ahead of the 20-year average of 29%. So guys, these are the numbers. It is tough. So that's the situation. Now, what's actually causing this crazy situation that we have right now? I'm going to run through some of the things that I've noticed and some of the data so we can understand what is the problem. The thing as well is I do hear a lot of first home buyers, they have this, I guess, hope that property prices are going to crash. And there is fear mongering that goes out there. And I do hear first home buyers that literally they just like, let's just put it on hold until the property prices come down. Sadly, it's not really a good strategy to take. And I'm going to show you why in the data. Let's firstly take a look at housing supply. This is a major issue. So in a 5-year period leading up to the 28-29 financial year, it's projected that we're going to have 938,000 dwellings completed. And the government is actually forecasting that we need 1.2 million houses to keep up with population growth. So we're falling far short. In fact, we've only got 78% of the required properties being constructed. Now, house prices are all a matter of supply and demand. So when there's high demand and low supply, prices go up, as with other goods according to economics. So guys, with this low supply, that is going to be a problem. Now, if we look at population growth, which is a contributor to the demand side equation, we can see that population growth, it did drop off, of course, during COVID as the borders were closed, but we've had a spike back to catch up with those numbers. But the long-term average is sitting really quite high. We had the most recent data, 445,000 increase in population over the year from both natural and international migration. So we can see that population growth is very, very strong at the moment, but it is coming down. So it'll be interesting to see what the next data says. Then there's other factors going on as well. Now, I am an environmentalist. I care deeply about the environment, but the cost of building is skyrocketing because things like requirements for energy efficiency, all the different requirements and legislations and rules and red tape that there is in the building industry. I speak to builders all the time. A lot of builders are fed up. They're just like, it is so difficult to build or get anything done with the local councils. And then you got the costs of supplies and materials increasing. This is leading to the increase in the cost to build properties. And sometimes it makes projects not even feasible to do if the cost to build it is too high. The cost to develop the land is also quite high with increased labor and also a shortage of land in a lot of places. So this together means that the cost to develop new housing is really hitting all-time highs. This is a really simplistic view, and I really do get that, but there's so many factors causing these price increases and then the severe shortage of homes. We also have the fact that we have a shortage of tradies across the country. Less people are choosing to uptake trade positions, and we definitely need more people on the ground that have the skills to put houses together. Another interesting one is during COVID times, there's actually a spike in divorce rates. So the household size, while the census said that it was 2.5 average household size, apparently we are seeing that household sizes are decreasing as more people choose to be single for longer. There's also divorces. Now, the divorce rate has actually come down and it's actually at a 50-year low now. So that's a little bit of a positive sign that we might see the demand decrease a little bit as households therefore, increase in size. But if people do continue to be single and like to live alone, that is also putting pressure on house prices. So overall, these are just some of the factors. There's lots of other stuff going on, but it just leads to the argument that if you're thinking of waiting for prices to come down, it's probably not a good strategy. Now, every place across the country is in different cycles. The most recent data that I saw showed that every single city and state actually had an increase in house prices, which is very rare for that to happen. But, places do go in cycles, right? So knowing where you live and what cycle it is in the market is a good thing to know, but at the current rate we're going, it is likely for the next few years, especially with interest rates decreasing, we will likely see house prices across the country continue to grow. Now, that's all the doom and gloom, guys. I now want to give you my 7 tips that if you're trying to get into the market, these are some things that you might want to try. Now, the first one is if you're trying to save a deposit, it is hard, and I get that. We saw before what the numbers and how long it's going to take to actually save a deposit. But if you are lucky to have family or friends or someone you know that has equity in their property, you might want to chat to your mortgage broker about using a deposit guarantor. Now, this is not going to be for everybody, but if you have someone comfortable to guarantor your deposit on a property, it means they don't have to contribute financially, but they're just guaranteeing that if things fall through, then they'll be the backup plan to pay for the mortgage. But that's an option for you, number one. Then we've got the first home guarantee. Now, that's a 5% deposit required to purchase a home. In a lot of places right now, it's totally useless because the caps to buy and then also the income caps are quite restrictive. But the government is making some changes, which are going to start from the 1st of January 2026. So you might want to get ready for that and potentially buy a property with a 5% deposit. But what we'll likely see is there's going to be more demand as well because more people get access to money. So it could actually cause prices to go up. So I recommend get ready. If you have a 5% deposit, speak to your broker, start from the 1st of Jan and get into the market as soon as you can before everyone comes back from holidays and starts taking up this offer from the government. The next one is rent vesting. Now, a lot of my clients are first home buyers and they're rent vesting. They can't afford to buy where they live, so we find them a location where they can afford, where the numbers make sense, and it's going to help them get ahead. And then maybe down the track, they can work towards their goal of building enough equity to use that to put a deposit towards a home. But it's definitely better off being in the market than sitting on the sidelines, especially if you live in a really expensive, unaffordable location. And also you might enjoy renting or living with your family. So rent vesting is definitely an option for you. If you want more information, I've got plenty of videos, you can check them out. The next one is around, I guess, I don't want to sound like a dad, but changing our expectations. I've spoken to first home buyers before and they're like, I really want to live in eastern suburbs of Sydney. Now, guys, it's so unaffordable to live in these areas. Even people in their 40s and 50s on executive salaries can't afford to buy in these locations. So thinking about, okay, well, where can I actually afford to live? Can I maybe sacrifice my lifestyle a little bit to live there? Or alternatively, go down the rent vesting path so you can buy where it makes sense. You can still have the lifestyle where you want to live. The next one I see people do, and I've actually done this in the past, if you buy a property and you can't afford the repayments, then maybe consider renting rooms out. You can maybe take the master, rent the other rooms out. Now, in all these recommendations, make sure you speak to your accountant because there are different tax implications and things like that. But if cash flow is an issue, maybe consider the short-term pain of renting the rooms out to at least help you cover the mortgage repayments. The next one is joining forces with like a family or friend. And I have done this in the past, and always make sure you consider the whole situation because it can mean that your finances are tied together. And if you have different opinions on what you want to do in the future, it can cause a little bit of conflict. So just make sure really clear that you have an aligned path of what you're wanting to do, but also that if you are looking to buy another property in the future, how's that going to impact your borrowing capacity and your ability to go on and do your own financial stuff, because they technically treat you a little bit like a married couple if you buy with somebody else. So just be warned. And this is the last one, probably not the most popular one, but whatever you can do to reduce your expenses, whether it means moving in home to save a bit of money or maybe just cutting down on some of the luxuries. Now, I don't like to say that. I think everyone has the right to live their best life, but sometimes a little bit of short-term pain for a long-term gain is worth it. And I do hear so many like motivated first home buyers that they're like got this vision and dream to buy a property, and they'll do whatever it takes, whether it's reducing their expenses or increasing their income. Maybe they get a second job or start a side hustle or do something to get some money in so they can start building up their deposit and also increase their borrowing capacity as well. Well, guys, I hope this has been helpful. I really feel for anyone in this situation. It is bloody tough. We have a literal affordability crisis, and we've not seen this situation in the past, and it is getting more difficult. So if you do take up some of these tips, please, do what you can to get into the market as soon as possible. If you want to ask any questions, pop them into the comments. More than happy to help. And if you need help getting into the property market, then you can feel free to book a call in with me and my team, and we'll help you and see how we can get your foot into the market in a place where the numbers make sense sooner rather than later. Well, thanks for joining me, and until next time, all the best.
All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs, and speak to a professional.